This NBA player props edition for November 3rd of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/SGPN and use code SGPN for a first deposit match up to $100. Roster brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for player props, parlays, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. Plus, the MMA Gambling Podcast just launched their YouTube channel. To celebrate, we're giving away a MMA Gambling Podcast hoodie. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/MMA hoodie for all the details. Welcome, everyone, to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Friday, November the 3rd, currently 12:36 on the East Coast. Here to dig into our NBA player props for the Friday night schedule. And we have the first games of the in-season tournament tipping off here tonight on Friday in the NBA. 7 games on the schedule, and we'll give you our player props as we usually do for those games. And joining me here to help me break it all down, I got my brother here with me. It's Chris B. Cappin. Chris, how's it going, man? How you doing this Friday afternoon?
What's up? Beautiful Friday, man. It's a little cold on the East Coast. It's about 25 this morning. I had to warm the car for about 30 minutes before I left. But outside of that, man, it's a beautiful time of the year. I know I keep mentioning it over and over again, but we had a beautiful, just a 4-game slate yesterday, and I think it's only 7 games today, Munaf, which is actually a blessing because I know we talked a little bit about it off air. When we got 15, 14 games going on at the same time, it's a lot to handicap, and it makes it easier to kind of overlook spots. And then you wake up the next morning or you're watching the games live and you say, man, why didn't I think about that? So I always enjoy it. It's kind of refreshing to, only have 7 games, only have 4 games. So you can kind of deep dive into these players. I think it's definitely some spots on the board that we got to take advantage of. As always, I'm excited to get into it and talk about it with you, my guy.
Yeah, I mean, usually on Fridays we have the 13 game schedules usually, but I think that's obviously changed maybe because of the in-season tournament starting this weekend with group stage for these teams here. But I think, like we mentioned, player props. Monday I got off to a really good start as far as player props. Or ever since then, I've kind of been on the downslide. But hopefully, I can turn that around on this episode here for the Friday games. But speaking of cold weather, I know you mentioned it's 25 on the East Coast. It's starting to get colder down here in Texas. I know we were around 40s, higher 50s earlier this week. So definitely the weather is changing down here as well in Texas. So it feels good not having to deal with the 100+ degree weather like we do here in Texas. But I guess we could say a team that's not on fire right now or is dealing with heat, or maybe there's some heat coming down on this team because how bad they were in the past 2 games. The Phoenix Suns here, Chris. They burned all my profits this week on their game last night against the Spurs, and which was supposed to be a bounce back spot. I know I was on the Suns. A lot of our guys were on the Suns last night. Fortunately for me, I did play their team total to go over full game in the second half, and that kind of negated some of the losses. But do you think there's trouble right now in Phoenix? Defensively, not very good for the Phoenix Suns. Even with Devin Booker last night, I was like, man, all right, I'm feeling really good. Bounce back spot after what had transpired in that first game against the Spurs. But Victor Wembanyama last night, I think the official coming out party for him, he finished up with a double-double, 38 points in that game for Victor Wembanyama for the San Antonio Spurs that they handled the Phoenix Suns last night. The Suns made it a little bit close in the fourth quarter, tied it up, but after that, after the shit talking that Devin Booker did to Jeremy Sochan. After that, it was just downhill for the Phoenix Suns. But I know I saw you tweeting this morning that you were shocked to see that final score between the Spurs and the Suns. Man, what did you think? What did you think of the game last night?
I think it's so many thoughts. We could do a whole pod about this, so I'll try to keep it short. But I think the way the first game ended on Tuesday night, I think it was, you kind of saw. In retrospect, you saw the Spurs just kind of play off of that momentum that they had. They got the steal on Kevin Durant. The Spurs were down 20 points in that game and came all the way back, and they kind of used that to start this game. I did not see this coming, though. Like you said, talking about people who got burnt, I thought that the best spot in the game was Suns first half. So I played the Suns yesterday morning when I woke up. I said, man, Devin Booker could get ruled in. I like the way it ended. As far as my bet, I like the way it ended. So I jumped on Suns first half -4, closed at 6. Devin Booker gets ruled in. Like you said, I'm feeling great about myself. I even go in and add the Phoenix Suns team total first half, of course, which also doesn't cash because it was a 60 and a half, I think. I get burned there because we talked about this a little bit. Victor Wembanyama, I know he had 38 points, and a lot of people are going to look at that, but their defensive rating when he's on the floor is really, really good because he makes it so that you have to shoot the ball from the outside. I mean, the guy, like, you literally have to jump off a trampoline if you want to get your shot off over top of him. So, I think, the Victor Wembanyama is definitely coming. He always talks about wanting to win, and as we saw last night, man, he'll do it at, whatever he can do. And the Spurs are a sneaky team. We know that Popovich is going to have those guys playing. They're going to play basketball the right way, right? There might be a talent discrepancy, but they're going to play the game the right way. They're going to cut with emphasis. They're going to shoot the ball. They have a bunch of skilled players. So if Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson can get hot, Trey Jones, running the point guard, this could be a scary team. And I know I don't want to overreact, but I do feel like, if they can play like this on a nightly basis, then they're going to be scary.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, those are my big thoughts about the game.
Yeah, I think I know they lost Devin Vassell last night to a groin injury. He may be out for some time, but I mean, you mentioned like the core pieces around Victor Wembanyama with Keldon Johnson, with Devin Vassell. I'm waiting for them for Popovich to stop messing around and put Trey Jones as that starting lineup as the starting point guard there. I know Jeremy Sohan, they've tried to experiment there, but I don't think it's quite working out just yet with him. But we know Trey Jones is that traditional point guard. And I think that's a guy that being in his offense with the guys that you mentioned, that could be a guy that could be up there in assists per game for the San Antonio Spurs, just because of the talent that they do have on this roster. So, yeah, something to definitely keep an eye out for. I know over the past couple of years, like you mentioned, the Spurs haven't been a very good defensive team. But when you add Victor and the length and just the pure size and the wingspan that he has, I mean, he's going to block a lot of shots and get a lot of steals. And again, that's just going to improve your defense that way. But yeah, we'll definitely be keeping an eye out on this Spurs team, especially their players and how they perform going for this rest of the season. But Chris, before we jump into the player props here for tonight, let me tell everyone about PrizePicks. When basketball season officially here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LeBron James and Travis Kelce at 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made and receptions. Well, you can do that over on PrizePicks. And if you want to play alongside some of PrizePicks' favorite players, such as rapper Meek Mill, you can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app, and view entries for some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you had a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second half, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. Myself and Chris will put together a PrizePicks entry at the end of this episode with our best bet, so hang on for that. But now make sure you go to prizepicks.com/SGPN. Use promo code SGPN for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com using promo code SGPN. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. And we're also brought to you by the MMA Gambling Podcast Contest. The MMA Gambling Podcast just launched their YouTube channel. In honor, we're giving away a MMA Gambling Podcast hoodie to one lucky winner. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/MMA hoodie to submit your entry today, and make sure to subscribe to the MMA Gambling Podcast on YouTube. All right, Chris, let's get into our player props here for the Friday night schedule in the association. I'll let you lead off, man. What do you got for your first player prop?
All right, so first player prop, let's go to let's start. I'm gonna go in order of how the games go, So we're gonna start with the early game, East Coast game. We're looking at the Milwaukee Bucks, and they'll be the home team tonight against the visiting New York Knickerbockers. And this is a spot that man, this is a spot that's been cashing, so hopefully it continues. A tad bit juice, but I'm looking at Brunson over his assist line here. It's 4.5 right now. He had cashed this line in 3 straight games to start the season, but he failed to cover in the last 2 games against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And we know the Cavaliers have been a pretty good defensive team. Brunson typically takes over on the offensive end in the form of scoring more so, when he plays against the Cleveland Cavaliers. We know what that history was like last year in the playoffs. This dude has a 27% usage rate. He's averaging 10 potential assists per game. And both of those are a team high. So I expect Brunson to have the ball in his hands. I expect him to continue to be able to facilitate. And then when we look at the opposite side, you look at this defense, widely considered one of the best, one of the worst perimeter defenses in this short season so far. They got Damian Lillard on the other side, So head-to-head matchup, in the one game that he's faced Damian Lillard in his career, where he's played at least 25 minutes, he covered this easily. He had 9 assists in that game. You look at the Bucks; they're allowing 10 assists per game to the point guard position, bottom 5 in the NBA. I just think that Brunson will have the ball in his hand. You go through. I mean, I can go through and give you guys all the numbers, but you just think about what Dennis Schroeder just did, double for him in that game. It should be a big Brunson game. Also, RJ Barrett might not end up playing in this game. He didn't play in the last game against the Cleveland Cavaliers in the second leg of that back-to-back. So that could be even more usage for Brunson. I do expect them to be able to find the shooters. The Bucks defense has been atrocious so far. And I think the Knicks should be able to put up some points here. So give me Brunson over his 4.5 assists. I did. This one is a tad bit juiced. So definitely check your odds, but minus 120 was the best number I found. This is one, I wouldn't be afraid of the 5.5 either, though, and a potential ladder spot as well. So give me Brunson over the 4.5 assists.
Yeah, you've had 2 point guards go over this number of, should be our players that were in double-digit assist. Dennis Schroeder, like you mentioned, had 11 assists, and then Trae Young also had 11 in earlier game against the Bucks this season. DeJounte Murray also had 5 in that game as well for the Atlanta Hawks. Malachi Flynn also chipped in with 4 assists in 19 minutes against the Milwaukee Bucks. And we talked about this a lot, that there was going to be a significant fall off from a defensive standpoint for this Milwaukee Bucks team, going from Jrue Holiday to Damian Lillard, right? And I think that's I'm a little shocked to see how much of the drop has been. I know it's still early on in the season, but right now the Milwaukee Bucks are the 29th rated defensive rated team thus far this season, according to that stat. And again, when we talk about some of the bad defenses this season, we think about the teams like the Washington Wizards. We think about teams like the Indiana Pacers. Right now, Milwaukee, the second worst defensive rated team. And I think that just kind of shows you, when you're going from Jrue Holiday to Damian Lillard from a defensive standpoint, that's just where it is right now. And again, I do expect a big game here from Jalen Brunson, whether it's scoring the basketball or even, getting the assist as well. So this number at 4.5, or if you want to get up to 5.5, I don't hate it. I think this will be a big Jalen Brunson game for sure. All right, for my first player prop, I'm going to go over to that game between the Chicago Bulls and the Brooklyn Nets. I'm looking at Nikola Vucevic on his rebounding prop. That number is at 12.5 right now, and I do like the over for this game. And again, looking at the injury report, Nick Claxton is going to be out in this game for the Brooklyn Nets. But you take a look at some of the centers and what they have done against the Brooklyn Nets, lack thereof, not having a big man, especially with Claxton being out. I'm trying to pull up the exact numbers here, but let's go to Bam Adebayo against the Nets this season. The 14 rebounds in that game. You take a look at some of the other guys that didn't play significant minutes. Mark Williams, in just 23 minutes, had 7 rebounds against the Nets here as well. I think you take a look at what Vucevic has done against the Nets in his career since being traded over to the Chicago Bulls from the Orlando Magic. And I'm just going to quickly read off some of these numbers over his last couple games here. So over the last 4 games, just last season, 14 rebounds and then 7 rebounds and then 20. Sorry, that's not right. That's points. So 15 rebounds, 13 rebounds, 17 rebounds, and then last season in the last game, he only finished up with 10 rebounds in just 29 minutes. But I think the magic number for Vucevic in this game is going to be that if he plays 30 plus minutes here tonight, I think he's definitely going to be over 13 and a half rebounds. 12 and a half rebounds in this game. You take a look at what he's done in the last 2 games. Indiana Pacers, 17 rebounds in that game. And then against the Dallas Mavericks, who also don't have, those centers to keep Nikola Vucevic off the boards. Both of these teams, we know about Miles Turner, a guy that likes to shoot the 3 ball and hang around the perimeter. That resulted in 17 rebounds for Nikola Vucevic. And like I mentioned, he had 20 rebounds against the Dallas Mavericks, also another team that doesn't quite have that center presence yet. I know they're starting Derek Lively, still trying to find his way going from the collegiate level to the professional level. But I think this is a game where Nikola Vucevic can have a lot of success getting rebounds here, Chris. So I'm taking Nikola Vucevic over 12 and a half rebounds in this game against the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, I couldn't talk you off of this one. This is something that's been even with Nicholas Claxton in last year. I think the one compromise I felt like they had in their defense was against big men. So Vucevic is out there to rebound the basketball. We do expect it to be a defensive game. I like to take defensive props when I'm betting on teams to not be able to score the ball. I think the total in this one has already come down 1.5, I want to say, as well. Mm-hmm. And then also the other big thing is just handicapping the game. This will be the Brooklyn Nets 4th straight and final road game. That's typically a flat spot. So if you have a flat spot against Chicago, then that's more missed shots and that's more opportunities for Nikola Vucevic. So I like this one. If numbers high, it's probably high for a reason.
Yep. All right, let's get over to your next player prop here, Chris. What do you like?
All right, so let's go to a very interesting game for today. Golden State Warriors versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Thunder at home, and I like Chet in this game. Chet Holmgren. I know a lot of people probably look towards Giddey. I couldn't talk anybody off Giddey, but Chet Holmgren's his points, rebounds, and assists, the whole thing, 25.5. The number seems a tad bit too low for me. Minus 109 on season, so it's not a lot of juice either. This is the number that Chet actually cleared in the last game against the Pelicans when he had 19 points and 11 rebounds, and that was with Shea being available for most of that game. He's over in just 2 games so far this season, but he has the chance, especially in this game as a home dog against a team that doesn't really that does lack size outside of Kevon Looney. You look at other centers that's actually played against the Warriors so far this season. Sabonis has played against them twice in the most recent game. He had 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists. And I'm not saying that Chet is at all Sabonis, but he will get more opportunity in this game. Alfred Sengun, your guy, 19 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. Sabonis in the first game, 19 points, 18 rebounds, 7 assists. All of these lines would have cashed. And then you look at Nurkic in game number 1. This actually happened in Golden State to open the season, 14 points and 14 rebounds in that game. So even though Looney is a pretty good big, I do feel like Chet's going to be able to pull him outside the 3-point line, put him in some vulnerable situations. And even Draymond, I think he also has that edge, I think, about him as well, that it's going to probably make him want to go super hard in this game. The last thing I want to mention, SGA being rolled out yesterday. That's 31% usage rate. We know once you get to 30, we're talking about, top 5, right? What, I'm pretty sure, 31 is top 5 in the NBA. I didn't get a chance to look at that. But other players got to pick that up. So like I said, Giddey, probably so, but I think his number's a tad bit too inflated. But I love Chet at this number, 25.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Give me the over.
Yeah, this number didn't really adjust for what he's done season long. And I think the key here is that number one, that you mentioned, the usage of SGA and also the amount of shot volume that's going to open up without SGA in the lineup here tonight. He gets up about 20 shots per game. Does SGA. He's averaging around 25 points per game. But I think there's an opportunity for Chet to really step up in the absence of their best player. And I think that we're all kind of waiting for that breakout game coming from Chet, and it just hasn't happened yet. But Chet I was looking at his points in this game. That number's at 15.5. He's gone over this number in 3 of his last 4 games. He has had 19, 14, 19, and 16. We know he can rebound the basketball. He's had 2 games this season where he's had double-digit rebounds. And I think the opportunity for him to, get a couple assists here as well, because he's averaging 2.2 assists thus far this season. Didn't get any assists against the Denver Nuggets in that game where they got blown out, but he did chip in with 19 points in that game. But I think if they want to keep this game close and compete with the Warriors here tonight, you're going to have to get a big game out of Chet. I know the pivot is really Josh Giddey, which again, like you mentioned, I can't talk people off of. I do like his rebounds and assists to go over here tonight at 14.5 for Giddey, because he is going to be that primary ball handler for this team, and we know he's an underrated rebounder as well. But I think that scoring load, and I think, again, don't be surprised here, Chris, if that Chet gets 20-plus points here tonight, and you only need him to get a couple assists and rebounds here for you to get over this PRA. So, I definitely, I do like this for Chet here tonight. All right, before we get over to my next player prop for the Friday night games, let me tell everyone about Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bet with historical stats and data, and enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bets revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, Chris, let me get into my next player prop here. I'm going to go over to the game between let's go over to the Miami Heat and the Washington Wizards game. And I'm looking at Tyler Hero in this game to go over on his points projection here tonight. That number's at 23.5 in this game.
Don't take my best bet. Don't take my best bet. It's like, now go ahead.
Oh, this is your best bet? All right. No, I mean, look, I think you made the case. I think we talked about this on the last Propcast we did on Wednesday, and you had talked about Tyler Hero. But it's just I know you'll have the usage number and all that good stuff and all those great stats for Tyler Hero as well, but it's just a pure shot volume thing for me. And there's 2 factors that I really like about it. On the season, he's averaging 26.2 points per game. He's getting up 22.2 shot attempts per game. He's had at least 20 shot attempts in all 5 games this season for the Miami Heat. He's also had double-digit 3-point attempts in 3 out of the 5 games this season. He's averaging 8.8 3-point attempts this season as well, knocking down 43% of those shots. Free throws haven't been there, but we know he's more than capable of getting to the free throw line. But, I mean, you take a look at what he's done this season, especially with Jimmy Butler kind of being hobbled or, maybe still shaking some of the rust off of getting up to speed for the regular season, or whatever the case might be with Jimmy Butler. But Tyler Hero has been that guy, and I think he's a guy on a mission right now for this Miami Heat team, and it's really been the offense for this team. And now tonight, they're going up against one of the worst defenses in the entire league. This team, but the Washington Wizards, have no desire to play any type of defense. We saw them opening night give up 143 to the Indiana Pacers. A couple nights ago, they gave up 130 to the Atlanta Hawks. So I think that this is going to be another game where Tyler Hero has a lot of success scoring the basketball. Back-to-back games, he's put up 30-plus points for the Miami Heat, 35 against the Milwaukee Bucks, 30 against the Brooklyn Nets team, who I believe are a pretty good defensive team because they have guys on that side of the basketball that can play defense, right? The Mikal Bridges of the world, the Royce O'Neals of the world, the Dorian Finney-Smiths of the world. But now for this Washington Wizards defense, nobody's really playing defense. So I wouldn't be surprised, again, if this is another 30-point game for Tyler Hero. So I love the over 23.5 points here for Chris. Didn't mean to steal a thunder here, Chris, but I love Tyler Hero in the spot here tonight.
Yes, I can't talk you off because I'm already on him as well. But I will say this, my best bet isn't Tyler Hero points. Okay. It's actually his points, rebounds, and assists. And we'll talk about that when we get there. But I mean, how could I talk you off? This is like you said, one of the worst defenses we've seen in the entirety of the association for quite some time. And I think sometimes you want to make sure you're sharp and you kind of, I know for myself, I'll second guess it at times. And I'm thinking like, okay, I know their defense has been playing really, really bad, but this is like a game where, you kind of expect them to play better, right? Total dropping. No. Just keep doing what you're doing and betting against. Just keep following the trend and betting against the Wizards until they prove you wrong. I couldn't talk you off. Tyler Hero usage rate, like you said, is through the roof. It's 28%, which is one of the top 10 in the NBA. And they don't have a lot of scoring down there, so they kind of rely on them a lot. I'll add that the Heat have an offensive rating. They're not a good offensive team. We know that, but they do have an offensive rating of 107. Not the greatest, but with Tyler Hero off the floor, it drops to 95. So that's actually pretty horrible. So 12 points of offense is what Tyler Hero is providing for this team when he's on the floor versus minus 12 when he's not on the floor. So absolutely love Tyler Hero tonight. I think you'd be a fool not to.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. All right, Chris, let's get over to round 3 of our player props here. What do you got?
So let's go with DeAndre Ayton. I like Ayton in this spot tonight. If he gets a Memphis Grizzlies defense at home to start the in-season tournament as well, he's back-to-back overs to back-to-back overs recently as he kind of settles into the offense. We know that Scoot Henderson won't be available for this game if you check the injury report, so that could mean a little bit more usage. I went through and checked the box scores. He has a double-double he has double-digit points, in 3 of the last 4 games against this Memphis Grizzlies defense, and 4 of the last 5 as well. Well, 3 straight, and then 4 of the last 5 as well. Rebounds hasn't really been there for whatever reason. I think some of that might have been the influence of Steven Adams, who, of course, won't be available. Brandon Clark also not available. So they're really down big men right now. You're really just relying on Jared Jackson Jr., who can't really stay out of foul trouble, in most games, especially on the road, and Xavier Tillman. So I like the number for Ayton tonight, just 24.5. Robert Williams is also the backup center on his team, and his minutes have been kind of limited. I want to say he only played 19 minutes in the last game. Maybe that was due to the injury that he sustained earlier in the season. So I like a big role carved out for DeAndre Ayton tonight. Give me his over on his points plus rebounds at 24.5.
Yeah, it's starting to seem like DeAndre Ayton's trying to find his role, I guess we should say, with this Portland Trailblazers team. And again, added to the fact, if you look at their injury report, they're very thin at that guard position. They just lost Scoot Henderson for at least maybe a couple weeks here with an ankle injury. We already knew about Anthony Simons, who's going to be out with a thumb injury. So you're going to have to get some type of production from other players, and I think DeAndre Ayton really can fit that mold. Rebounding wise, he's done great. He's been in double-digit rebounds in 4 of the 5 games thus far this season, averaging 14. I know that number is a little bit, I don't want to say inflated, but it's higher because he had 23 against the Toronto Raptors. But other than that, against the Detroit Pistons, he had 11, 15 against the Magic, 12 against the LA Clippers. I just want to see his shot volume get up a little bit because I think this is a guy that should be getting at least 10 to 12 field goal attempts per game. But again, doing a great job rebounding the basketball. The offensive rebounds have been for them as well. And again, this number is a little conservative here for DeAndre Ayton, so I can't talk you off of it, especially, I do have Ayton for MIP. Not looking very good because Maxey looks like he's already running away with it. I should do have a ticket on him as well. But, Ayton looks like he's finally found his, spot here with the Portland Trailblazers. Chris, I'll stay in the same game here, man. And we talk about scoring output needed, and I can't look any further than Shaedon Sharpe in this game. That number's
at 21.5. I got him too. Keep going.
At 21.5 in this game. And again, we just talked about the injuries right now for the Portland Trailblazers, right? Thin at that guard position. Scoot Henderson out, ankle injury. Anthony Simons with a right thumb injury. Shaedon Sharpe listed probable. I think will be going. He's also dealing with a right thumb injury as well, but it seems like he is going to be playing here tonight. But that's only going to put Malcolm Brogdon into the starting lineup here, I believe, for the Portland Trailblazers. And I know Brogdon is the guy that can definitely score the basketball for you, but also rack up the assists. But I think that's going to be his role for this Portland Trailblazers team right now, being a veteran guard and getting these guys in the right spot. But you take a look at what Shaedon Sharpe has been able to do thus far this season, as far as scoring-wise for the Portland Trailblazers. And in his second year, he's looked really good. He's averaging 20.2 points per game. But in his last game against the Detroit Pistons, which was on Wednesday, 42 minutes, 9 of 16 from the floor, finished up that game with 29 points against Orlando Magic, 41 minutes, 9 of 23 from the floor, 4 of 11 from three-point line, finished up with 24 points. And I know he's only gone over this projection in 2 games, but again, it's the fact that you need somebody that's going to be having to score the basketball for this Blazers team. And again, with the guard position being so thin right now, Sharp is going to have to be out there for the minutes. He's averaging 37 minutes per game thus far this season for the Portland Trail Blazers. He's getting up 15 shot attempts per game, but I expect that number to increase significantly here tonight. Don't be surprised if you see him get 20 attempts per game or in this game here tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies, especially like I mentioned, going back to the injuries that the Blazers backcourt is suffering here, Chris. So Shaedon Sharpe over 21.5 points here tonight for the Portland Trail Blazers against the Memphis Grizzlies. What do you think?
Yeah, you got to stay on my notes, We're not on the same prop, but I love this. I love this look, right? So Shaedon Sharpe, I actually like his threes. When you were going to ask me about, honorable mentions for the day, I was definitely going to, throw in an extra because we don't have time to go through every single player prop. But Shaedon Sharpe threes, is what I was looking at. Over 2.5, minus 110 on BetMGM. It's for all the reasons that you kind of mentioned. He's averaging 2.5. We do expect increased shots. He's getting up 6.5 attempts per game. Both of those are team highs already. He's over in 2 of his last 4 and finished on the hook in the games that he didn't. And then you take a look at that Memphis Grizzlies defense. Oh my gosh, I know we've been talking about Washington, but the Memphis has been flying underneath the radar. Their defense is absolutely atrocious, and specifically from the 3-point line. Bad doesn't even really begin to describe them. Teams are averaging 17.8, so a little under 18 makes per game. That's the most in the league. 41 attempts per game. That's the second most in the league. And they're allowing teams to shoot 43.4%, which from the 3-point line, which is also second worst in the league. So I do expect, I know Portland's not the greatest team. I know that they're going to struggle offensively, throughout the course of the season, but this does seem like a step-up spot. For the listeners, I know you guys probably didn't think that we'd be talking about the Portland Trail Blazers for this long of a time, but they're in a really good spot tonight, So I like Shaedon Sharpe to go over his 2.5 threes. I think this has ladder potential as well.
Yeah, 100%. Again, if you want to dial this up to maybe 30, I'll try to find the alt numbers here for Shaedon Sharpe before we do get into some more honorable mentions and then best bets for tonight. Let me see if I can find it here. So Shaedon Sharpe, 22.5 is at even money. 23.5 goes to plus 125. That's all I see right now over on DraftKings. I know FanDuel does a better job of giving you those ladder opportunities for point scores. Let me see here quickly if I can find it for Shaedon Sharpe here. Let's see. So let me find this in the here we go. All right, let's see. So points. So 25 plus for Shaedon Sharpe, plus 140 on FanDuel. 30 plus is at plus 390. 35 plus is at 12-1 if you want to have some fun here on this Friday night. So I think, it should be a pretty good scoring night for Shaedon Sharpe. Chris, any other honorable mentions you want to give out before we get to our best bets?
You mentioned them, and I hate to stay in the same game, so maybe you just put a same game parlay in. But Malcolm Brogdon, I think you've got to look at his points, rebounds, and assists without Scoot being there, and with Shaedon being the primary option here. You just go through and look at Brogdon. First of all, we know he's extreme professional. I'm not sure how they're going to stagger his minutes in this spot, but I do expect him to be also to have great shot attempts, great assist opportunities. And to be able to pull down some rebounds as well. One thing I failed to mention was the Memphis Grizzlies have really struggled with the lack of with the injuries that they have, and Ja Morant not playing. They're shooting 42%, which is actually the second worst field goal percentage in the league, which is why I like Ayton to go over his rebounds and to maybe contribute even more rebounds. And then also for Brogdon as well, kind of throwing in his points, rebounds, and assists. He's going to fill up the stat sheet, whether he does it, with points and assists or points and rebounds, or just a little bit of both. So honorable mention would be Brogdon to go over their points, rebounds, and assist line. I know he cashed it last game against Detroit, and now he gets an even worse defense at home as a dog. So I do like him in this spot as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree about that. I know I took him in the last game. I got burned just because I think Shaedon Sharpe that had a really good game for the Blazers in that game. But now we do expect Malcolm Brogdon to step in that starting lineup. And I will be looking out for his assist in this game here tonight once that number is posted by the books. Currently do not see it for Brogdon, but just to put into context, this season coming off the bench, He's averaging around 4.4 assists, but he's been at 5 or more assists in 4 of the 5 games that he did play thus far this season for the Blazers. He scored 18 or more points in 4 of the 5 games thus far this season as well, averaging 18.2 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 4.4 assists for the Blazers thus far this season. All right, Chris, let's get into our best bets here for tonight for the NBA card. What are you looking at as your best bet?
So I talked about him a tad bit. Tyler Hero, man, I like his points, rebounds, and assists. You know, if he's the focal point to this offense right now. If I would have told you this to start the season, you might not be surprised, you know, but the average fan might be. I think fact check me later, but I think Jimmy Butler is going under his points, rebounds, and assists in every single game so far this season. I'm not sure if it's dealing with injury. I'm not sure how much it entails him missing a lot of the preseason because he didn't play. I think he might have played in one of those games. But it's really been Tyler Hero. You know, this team has a lot of rookies, a lot of guys that are trying to develop continuity and, you know, learn that Heat culture way. So I think, you know, Tyler continuing to ride Tyler Hero. I gave him out the first game of the season, his points. And, of course, he shot the ball like 600 times and couldn't score 20 points because he just missed everything against Detroit. But he hasn't failed to cover his points line since. So looking at his points, rebounds, and assists, I think the same thing. I think he's going to have a ball in his hand, whether he's facilitating, whether he's scoring. And you got to find a way to fade this Washington Wizards defense. Hero has cashed 3 of his first 5 games. I talked about the 28% usage rate, which is identical to Bam that leads this team. And also, just take a small look at who the Wizards have played so far. Primary ball handlers, Trae Young, 23, 10, and 3. That's a cash. Tatum, 33, 6, and 3. That's a cash. Jaylen Brown, same game, 36 and 6. Cash. Desmond Bane, 26, 5, and 2, cash. Tyrese Halliburton, first game of the season, 20, 11 assists, and 3 rebounds. All of those are cashes. So I love Tyler Hero in this spot. Points, rebounds, and assists from Munaf. Minus 110. Love that I'm not paying too much. Definitely shop around for better odds, but BetMGM, minus 110. Tyler Hero, best bet of the day, over 32.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
I mean, this could be a game, Chris, where he gets it done just by points alone. I mean, I think that is definitely the real possibility for Tyler Hero because, like I mentioned, he's put up 28 or 30 plus points in the last 2 games. He had 35 last game against what was the Brooklyn Nets, and then a 30-point game prior to that as well. So, yeah, big Tyler Hero fans here tonight for the Propcast. All right, for my best bet, I'm gonna go over to that Dallas Mavericks and the Denver Nuggets game. I'm gonna go with Nikola Jokic to go over on his rebound props here tonight. This number is at 12.5 as well for Nikola Jokic. I do not know why I don't see it posted right now on DK, but I saw this 12.5 earlier. Number one, you take a look at what we talked about, what centers have done against the Mavericks thus far this season, and I'll pull up those numbers right now. So Vucevic in his last game against this Mavericks team had 20 rebounds in that game. Jaren Jackson Jr. in 30 minutes had 9 rebounds, and then they haven't really played a center like Nikola Jokic. I mean, there's only one great guy like Nikola Jokic, but when Nikola Vucevic is getting 21 points and 20 rebounds on you, I just imagine what Nikola Jokic is going to do here tonight against his Dallas Mavericks lack their front court. I know on the season he's only averaging 11.8 rebounds, and he's only gone over this projection twice this season, which was against OKC, another similar team that doesn't have that front court presence. And then in the first game against the LA Lakers, where he had 13 rebounds, but he's been in double-digit rebounds in all 5 games this season. Asking him to get 12.5, especially against a Mavericks team that I don't think that Derek Lively will be able to hold Nikola Jokic right now, that he should have a lot of success rebounding the basketball here tonight. And then in his career against the Mavericks and over the past several games dating back to last season, the rebounds have been there. So 13 in the last game last season against the Mavericks. He only had 8 in a previous matchup last December. But prior to that, 3 straight games where he had 16 rebounds against the Dallas Mavericks, lacked their front court. So expecting a big night from Nikola Jokic as far as rebounding the basketball. If you want to tack on the assist there as well, I think that number will probably get up to 20.5 for Nikola Jokic, maybe even 21.5. But I do like a big night. Yeah, that's at 20.5 for his rebounds and assists here tonight for Nikola Jokic. So I like it both ways. Rebounds and assists to go over 20.5, and then just his rebounds at 12.5 for Nikola Jokic. So expect a big night from the former MVP against the Dallas Mavericks. Any thoughts on that one, Chris?
The only thought I have is no way I could take the under. You kind of laid it out. You know, Dallas is not faced a team like this. I mean, you can't face a team like this unless you played against the Denver Nuggets anyway, because there's only one Nikola Jokic. And also, when we just think about capping this game, the Denver Nuggets are coming off a loss, so they're probably extremely motivated. Back at home, I think it's a big spot. And poor Derek Lively, he'll be in my prayers for tonight. He will go to school tonight. Whether he has his notebook, pen and paper or not, he will be in school. He will be taking big notes tonight from the best center in the league.
Yeah. So there it is. There are player props for the Friday night schedule in the association. Hopefully it's a bounce back night from me. I know Chris has been doing really well with the sides totals and even his player props as well. So hopefully we can carry that momentum into the Friday night schedule here in the association. That's going to do it for this NBA Propcast. Me and Chris will be recording later for the NFL Propcast around 2:30 Eastern. Is that what we decided, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes,
so
sir.
Look out for us then. If you're watching live, mark that on your calendars. We'll be live on the NFL Gambling Podcast YouTube channel there. So 2:30 Eastern, myself and Chris will go through our NFL Week 9 player props. So join us then. Make sure to follow Chris on Twitter/X at CrispyCappin. 2 P's and 2 N's. He does his show every single day live at 5 p.m. Eastern time to go through the NBA card. A lot of great contributors and guys in the chat giving out plays as well. But Chris does an absolute amazing job of analyzing the games and giving out his plays. He's been absolutely crushing it. So make sure you join Chris on his YouTube and then also on Twitter. Just make sure to follow him on Twitter at CrispyCappin, 2 P's and 2 N's in Cap. And you can follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and let it ride.